part two. I knew there was going to be a part two. I didn't feel done with my rant. So, another one is, are you intentional, right? Let's talk about the red flags in your intentionality. So, when you enter into a relationship, or you have deep friendships or family ships, oftentimes we skip the bare minimum of importance here, right? The communication. Communication is not necessarily always talking, right? It's talking about the deep stuff, the real stuff. It's asking your partner, like, what do you need, right? To feel loved, to feel secure in our connection. What can I do to, like, make you feel loved, right? What is your love language like? What does that look like? Because I know your love language could be very different from mine, right? My love language could be completely different from yours. I want to love you in your love language. I want to make it known that from your perspective that you are receiving love from me, because my love language may make you feel neglected. And so, it's prioritizing their love language, right? Because when you're in a connection, you've got to be selfless, man. You have to, prioritize them as a person. You have to, realize that their feelings are valid. The way that they need to be loved is important, because what makes you feel loved and what makes them feel loved is not necessarily going to be the same thing. For example, you may have a partner who thrives on you constantly flirting with them and making sure that they know that they are attractive to you, right? That you are completely enthralled by them as a person, and they may not even know how to communicate that to you. That physical touch, that flirting is very important, and think about the reasons that they fell in love with you in the first place, right? And bring more of that into the relationship rather than depleting that, because the way that you won them over to begin with is the way you're going to keep them. And understanding that there's nothing wrong with flirting with your partner until you guys are 90 years old, walking up telling them you got a cute butt, whatever, however it is, because intimacy is like that, right? When you are deeply intimate with somebody, you have that openness with them where it's, because they want to feel good. You want to make them feel good, right? And vice versa. They want to flirt with you back. They want to make you feel good, because you make them feel good. Because, and that's how you build confidence in a relationship where, you guys are free to be dorky with each other, right? You are free to express your love in the way that you do. Some people, their love language is giving and receiving gifts, and that doesn't necessarily mean you gotta go out and spend millions of dollars on them. Make them handmade gifts, do little fun scavenger hunts for little love notes or whatever, make your relationship fun. And if you are unable to make your relationships fun, that's a red flag. Okay? There's no reason that you should be in a relationship that you ain't enjoying yourself fully, right? You enjoyed yourself to get into that relationship, you should continue doing so. That's what connection's all about, right? That's what keeps the fire burning. Keeping it alive, And sex in a relationship should not feel like a chore. It shouldn't feel like something that you have to do. It's you should feel like, hey, I get to have sex with this dope ass person all the time. That's sick, and they should feel safe. You should be a safe zone for them to come to you about their desires, their fantasies, right? Their kinks, if you will, you know, like they should feel like they're safe to talk to you about certain things. And on the other side of that spectrum, they should feel safe to talk to you about their complaints, about issues that may arise, about like what bothers them, right? And your behaviors and the way that you talk to them and whatever the case, like there should be, that's open communication when you're able to communicate these things freely, and there's not like a risk of somebody running away or being dismissive or avoiding that altogether. True intimacy is all inclusive, right? True intimacy is like, we're allowed to have all this, right? We're allowed to discuss all these things, and you're not at risk of losing me just because you're not completely happy with the way that I've been. Maybe there's something in me that needs compromising, you know? And I know that's a tough one. Not everyone wants to compromise because everyone feels like they're always right and they can't ever possibly be wrong. Entertain the idea that sometimes you're wrong, all right? Entertain the idea that sometimes you need to compromise. And that does not make you a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're failing your partner. It's not a reason to lose confidence in yourself and your partnership. In fact, it should strengthen that, you know, that your partner feels safe to come to you about these things, that your partner feels safe to voice their opinions, that, you know, like they see you as an extension of themselves, right? That should be a very beautiful experience, you know? It's like, when people get married, they often say, like, you become one flesh or whatever, or you become one, right? And what that really means, from my perspective, is that you work as a unit, right? You're not going to live on going against one another, undermine one another, especially if you have kids. You know, you're going to want to show up as a unit. You want the world to see you as a unit. Like, you demonstrate union, right? Unity with one another. There's no longer, and I know that can be really hard for people who are like fiercely independent. You know, that's something that's hard for me. Compromising, feeling like my autonomy is being compromised. But it's not really. In a healthy connection, it's not that you're authentic, that your autonomy is being compromised. It's that you are now in union, right? And when you come into union, you're going to behave as a single unit. You're going to be partners, right? Partnership means togetherness, being on each other's team, being on each other's side, being each other's like fiercest cheerleaders, supporting their endeavors, supporting their dreams, their ambitions, rather than shooting it down, you know, like really making them feel confident in you and your partnership, making them feel like this is something I could do for the rest of my life. This is dope. This person makes me feel fulfilled, makes me feel seen, heard, understood, you know, and it's unwavering, you know. That's what people are seeking in partnerships. That's what they're seeking in love. And I feel like because so many of these aspects have been missing, that it's like, it's hard to find that. It's hard to pin it down. It's hard to, and you know, you need to find somebody who's equally yoked, you know, somebody who has the emotional maturity to have these conversations, right? To not shut you down, right? You need to notice the way that they are with you. Also, you need to like when you do enter into partnerships, I feel like a very important thing to ask yourself, to ask them, is do you want the same things? right? Do you want the same kind of lifestyle? You know, because some people want to go, you know, buy a farm, settle down, live that life, you know, and then they get into partnerships with somebody who wants to travel the world and who wants to party and who wants to live it up. And it's like, you know, a bird and a fish can't live in the same, you know, they've got different ambitions, okay? So you might fiercely like somebody, you might, you know, have all the compatibility and all that, but then you guys are, you know, wanting different things in life, you're at a different point in your own journey, and that in itself makes you incompatible, right? That in itself becomes a reason that it won't work. You know, if one partner wants kids, the other partner doesn't. One partner wants marriage, the other partner doesn't. These are things to take into consideration, right? And not compromising what you want either, just to make it work with somebody. Because if you do that, you're just going to sabotage a relationship and leave. Okay? Because then you won't feel fulfilled. Because then you won't feel like you're living up to what you desire in life. And then there could be resentments. There could be all kinds of things, you know, and these are important to recognize, to understand, to feel, you know, in our lives. Like, we should want a partner who is going the same way that we're going, you know, somebody who wants the same life, you know, because ultimately if you're sharing your life with somebody, you guys should want the same life, you know. Should have the same vision. And that's why I don't believe in settling. I simply don't. I don't think that it's helpful. I don't think that it's, you know, conducive. And also, like, for example, if one of you wants to live a sober life and the other person wants to party, like, that can be really damaging too, because you're just not on the same wavelength, right? And if you're not on the same wavelength with your partner, communication starts feeling like you guys are talking through walkie-talkies, right? Then you guys can scream your heads off trying to be heard and understood by the other person. But the problem is y'all are both tuned into different channels, so you can't comprehend one another because you're just not on the same fucking wavelength. You're not going down the same path. So comprehension is out of the question, right? Comprehension is so fucking important when you are getting into a relationship. You have to comprehend each other. You know, you have to get one another. And I feel that, you know, if you're finding it a struggle to comprehend your partner, then you have to really ask the bigger questions, like, is this really my person? Are we even on the same frequency? The attraction may be there, the love may be there. Love in itself isn't going to make a relationship work. So what makes a relationship work is if you both have the same vision for your relationship. If you have, if you're on the same wavelength, you know, you're growing in the same direction, you know. Like, it could be really hard for a deeply spiritual person to be with somebody who's, you know, an atheist, for example. Not impossible, super hard, because you're gonna feel so misunderstood, or you're gonna feel like they just think that you're, you know, like, you know, they might become dismissive of what's really deep and important to you, or they, you know, and that can be a struggle. It's just, It's too much. And similarly, if you're like an atheist, it might be hard to be with somebody who's spiritual because they won't understand you, right? They're gonna be like, bro, why don't you want to go fucking find some random sticks and rocks and talk to the gods and shit? That doesn't make sense to me. And conversely, a deeply spiritual person who doesn't fall into the realm of organized religion might not do so well with somebody who's deeply in the mix of organized religion because they won't understand each other, right? It's like, this is where being equally yoked can be very important. Sharing values and stuff. It's not like the end of the world if you have different beliefs and whatever. It's just gonna be a lot harder to manage, to understand each other, to feel seen and heard by your partner. It's just really difficult because you don't ever really feel like you're reaching a point where they get you, right? And a big important aspect to a relationship is to feel like they get you and like you get them, right? That's where just simply being attracted to somebody is not enough. That like it has to be like you guys get it, you guys understand each other, you guys are one, at least in that aspect. But anywho, alright, now that I've gotten that off my chest, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna do more thinking and meditating and shit. So namaste, I love you guys, and I will talk to you later.